They were forced to take shelter in the Jeep.
The reality set in that night. Didn't have any provisions with us. No cell service, nobody knew where we were, and we were extremely stuck, and the storm was ferocious.
It was nothing for him to say, I'll be home at 3 o'clock and not get here till 6. But when they didn't show up later into the night, that's when it got bad.
He said, Ron, I don't want to die. And he said, we're not going to die, baby. I'm not going to let that happen.
The following morning, 18 hours after they were due home, Paula's mum and sons still had no idea where Paula and Rob were.
911, address of your emergency?
My daughter and her friend have been missing since yesterday. They're supposed to be leaving the Sacramento area and coming home here in Gardnerville. And we have had no contact with them since about noon yesterday.
Next morning, we tried a couple more things to get unstuck. So I think one of us should try to walk out to where we have cell service or we could get help. And he says, okay, I'll go. And I said, well, I think I should go because I have the better clothing, the better protection. He says, no, I'll go. We kissed each other and said we loved each other. When I said, Rod, maybe we should wait till the storm lets up. And he just kind of threw his arms up in the air like, I got this. I just remember him walking away at 9:09, Friday morning. And when he got approximately 30 feet away, he just disappeared and like something slowly becoming invisible.
Completely unprepared, Paula survived on green tomatoes and melted snow. She occasionally ran the engine to try to stay warm in the sub-zero temperatures.
Unimaginably cold. It just consumes almost every thought of every second. Nothing's working right, nothing's moving right, and you're cramped in this little seat. And you just want to just lay down and go to sleep and get warm. That's all you want to do. And everything just hurts.
36 hours after they were due home, Paula woke up, alone.
Saturday morning came and it was just, uh-oh, something happened to him.
I began to panic then. I thought, they've been robbed, they've been killed, they've been, horrible things go through your mind.
After searching for 3 days, the police still had no idea what had happened to Paula and Rod. As she prepared to spend her 4th night in the Jeep, Paula recorded a message to her mum and sons.
On Friday morning to get up and just get back. I don't know what happened to me. But I can't walk out in this because I don't have the clothing. I just want to see my babies and my mom. I'm so sorry that this happened. But as soon as the sun comes out, I'm going to have to try to make it. It's 7 miles and 6 feet of snow. But nobody's ever going to find me here at Burnside Lake. Oh, God, I feel so bad. I just want to come home.
These are the incredible stories of being trapped in the snow, filmed by those at the heart of the drama. Every year, over 150 people are killed in avalanches. The most dangerous, slab avalanches, can hit speeds of up to 80 miles per hour. Despite the risks, over 1 million Brits head for a week in the snow every year. For some, like Londoner John O'Verity, it's become his life as well as his passion. Jono's year is spent filming himself and others snowboarding.
I've been snowboarding for about 21 years now, so I'm pretty experienced. There is a perfect snow condition. It's about 2 feet of fresh, deep powder. Unfortunately, with the perfect conditions, you generally have quite a high risk of avalanche.
August 2008, Jono was flown by helicopter to the top of New Zealand's tallest mountain range.
It was perfect blue sky day, no wind. There was probably a solid metre of snow on the ground.
Jono and colleague Eric Themmel planned to film each other boarding down the virgin snow on the 12,000-foot mountainside.
I was just really, really excited about going up and being in that kind of snow.
But as soon as they started their descent, Jono realised they were in danger.
I looked around me and I realised that the entire face had broken. My first thought was to stay on top of the snow. My second thought was, I can't believe this is happening.
A third of all avalanche victims are killed by the impact, and those who aren't often die of asphyxiation.
I'm getting churned over and over, upside down in the snow. It's completely dark. I have no idea which way up I am. I feel the weight getting heavier and heavier.
Within seconds, Jono was engulfed by tons of snow.
Where's Jono? Where's Jono?
It was just kind of a blood-curdling fear in the back of my throat. I was suddenly hit by this incredible force of snow from behind. I get spat out, and for a moment I'm weightless until I land. I was thrown down onto another slope, and I was left sitting on top of the snow, wondering what on earth had happened. And I just remember being absolutely desperate for air.
I thought I was buried, because it completely engulfed me, and I was like, get out of my mouth.
When we flew away from it in the helicopter and we could see that the whole of the mountain had just come down, it sometimes makes me think that, yeah, I'm really pretty lucky to have got away with it in the way I did.
That's more like it.
Although accidents can happen anywhere on the slopes, the real danger lurks off-piste. Obstacles are often completely covered, and you only realise when it's too late.
1, 2, 3. Get him out. Roll this way. Turn 6.
Kristen and Eric Jacobson only started skiing 6 years ago when their children took up lessons.
My oldest took a ski lesson, and the twinkle in her eye, she finally found the sport of her dreams, and it completely changed our family's lives. It's exhilarating, and it's hard to describe, but there's no other sport that I can compare it to.
Spring 2012 in Lake Tahoe. While their kids were out with their ski teams, Kristen and Eric set off on their first run of the day.
It was a gorgeous bluebird sky day, and there had been a significant snowfall the night before. Eric was skiing in front of me, and just skiing in and out of the trees, and I was following behind him a bit closely. He stopped on top of a big boulder.
And I noticed that just to my right, no more than 4 or 5 feet away from me, there was a weird depression. I tried to warn her. I think I put my hand up.
And the next thing I knew, there was just snow everywhere.
The snow just opened up, and she just kept going down. The earth just opened up and swallowed her.
After the sense of falling and snow everywhere, I felt like I was encased in concrete.
She was gone. I mean, literally gone. And there was nothing on the surface of the snow except for the bottom of her skis.
Kristen had fallen upside down through snow, covering a mountain stream.
All I can remember doing was just diving in, face forward, and just trying to dig. The more I dug, the more she sank.
I knew then that I needed to stay as calm as I possibly could, to keep as much oxygen as I could, for as long as I could.
I was screaming at the top of my lungs for help. I had at some point been able to dig out a hand, and I was just tugging on that hand, just trying desperately to pull her out of that snow. It was a terrifying state of panic.
After being buried alive for 10 minutes, Kristen had used up all the available air and began to breathe in carbon dioxide, which can lead to brain damage.
Your head goes to a dark place, you know. I remember thinking that this was not how I thought I was gonna die. I was very thankful, actually, that it was not one of my kids and that it was me. The last thing I remember was when I couldn't breathe any longer. I was tears welling up in my goggles, and it was like dark water, and then everything just went black.
Eric was holding Kristen's hand when it stopped moving.
As far as I knew, that was it. I mean, how long can you hold your breath? That's what we're talking about.
Eventually, help arrived. But 40 minutes after being sucked under, Kristen was still trapped and unconscious.
The 6'5" guy in the bottom of that hole digging out. So it kind of gives you a sense of just how deep that was. They still can't get her out. The ropes were to keep anybody that was in that hole from falling deeper down.
Finally, 45 minutes after being buried, the rescuers got to Kristen's face. As they cleared her airways, she took a breath.
That moment was immediate relief. They're finally getting Kristen out of the hole and upright. As they lifted her out of the hole, she was pretty limp. She was going in and out of consciousness.
It's hard to see them pull my body out. It gives me goosebumps still. It brings it all right back.
Kristen was airlifted to hospital, leaving Eric alone on the mountain.
My kids are still out on the mountain. Have a great day. Sorry.
Kristen's life was probably saved by being buried upside down, as this forced blood to run to her brain.
Statistically, I'm about a miracle on the scale or on the spectrum of the probability of being buried for 45 minutes.
December 2012. Paula Lane and her boyfriend Rod were trapped overnight in their Jeep in a remote campsite 7 miles from the nearest road.
Run like Friday morning to get out, but didn't get back.
3 days later, and Paula was now all alone.
I just want to see my babies and my mom.
The police and her family had no idea where she was, and Paula had no way of contacting them.
As soon as the sun comes out, I'm gonna have to try to make it. It's 7 miles and 6 feet of snow, but nobody's ever gonna find me here at Burnside Lake.
The battery went dead on the camera before I could finish.
Finally, the blizzards let up enough for Paula to leave the Jeep. She had no gloves, no socks, and had only eaten green tomatoes for the last 5 days.
I had never been in snow that was absolutely untraversable. I was maybe out and on my way 15 minutes, I started throwing up blood. It drew a lot of my energy just trying to take one step at a time. It was getting worse and worse. I was throwing up more and more blood and more often. And I decided that this is it. I mean, I tried to come to terms with my maker.
As Paula was preparing to give up, she saw somewhere to shelter.
I crawled over there because I couldn't walk. And it was a fallen down, hollowed out tree. And I just lay down and I think I went to sleep.
With the police unable to find them, Paula's brother Gary arrived from Sacramento to join the search.
I called my friend Brian, and he showed up with his Jeep, and away we went. We started running the streets and running the roads and covering grounds that the authorities had said that they did check, and we were double checking.
While Paula's brother Gary scoured the area, one of her twins was increasingly convinced he knew where his mum was.
Hayden came to me and he says, "Grandma, I think I know where Mom and Rod went. They went down to our campsite." He's right, that's where they're at.
Paula spent her 6th night sheltering from the freezing temperatures in a hollowed-out tree.
Woke up Wednesday morning and I decided, are you kidding me, Paula? You're not done. You have to die trying. So I started crawling. I came across Rod's body. He was in the middle of the road on his back. So I sat there for I don't know how long and told him that I loved him and that I would be back for him. He died for me. Died trying to save us. Me.
Gary arrived at the lock gate at the bottom of the campsite. The police hadn't searched beyond this point.
As we went up farther, the snow kept getting deeper and the climb kept getting steeper. And so that's when we had to start shoveling snow.
I hear voices. Men's voices. And I finally yelled, "Call 911! My name is Paula Lane and I've been stuck out here. My boyfriend's dead." And he said, "You just stay there, I'll carry you." And I curled up in a little ball again and just started crying. It's over. This nightmare's over, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I'm dreaming. I didn't realize it was Gary. And I said his name 1,000 times. I just couldn't stop saying it.
I told her I got her, you know. Felt pretty good.
I have to be strong for my boys and not lose the thought that Rod wants me to be happy. I need to do things that are healthy for me and my family. Because he is no longer here to see and live them with me because he died for us, for me. I'm obligated, I owe that.
An incredible 90% of avalanches are triggered by the victims themselves. And snowmobiling causes more avalanches than all other winter sports.
Here he comes, he's gonna jump off this cliff. Oh!
Tyson Black from Utah loved to snowmobile.
I pretty much expect to not ever see him on the weekend when there's snow on the ground.
March 2012, Tyson convinced his partner Brandy to go on her first ever snowmobile trek.
We were just going over small hills and just off the trail, but not anything too scary.
An hour into the run, they met friends and headed up to their favourite hillside, Hoyt's Peak.
They started taking turns going up the hill. I was like just kind of a little bit further away. I didn't have any control in telling him, don't do this.
Tyson pushed himself further and further up the slope. Snowmobiling is one of America's most popular and most dangerous winter sports. In March 2012, what started as a fun day quickly turned to disaster when Tyson Black was caught in a slab avalanche.
I couldn't believe what was happening. It was like in slow motion for me, and it wasn't real for a minute. Once the avalanche stopped is when I started to panic because I didn't see him anywhere.
Oh my God, he doesn't even have a beacon on! Get your shovel out!
He'd been buried for 5 minutes, and without a tracking beacon, locating him under the snow is extremely difficult.
I didn't know what we were gonna do. Are we even gonna be able to find him? Is he gonna be breathing when we find him?
Bronson, we're at your back!
We just got our probes.
Here!
And we decided to look around the snowmobile because they're most likely to try to stick with this. I didn't know how long he would have under there, and all the guys around us were shouting out, it's been 9 minutes, it's been 10 minutes, he has until 12 or 15 minutes.
If you're found within quarter of an hour, there's a 90% survival rate. After that, your chances plummet.
it had hit about 15 minutes, I just thought, we're never gonna find him. Like, how are we supposed to find him in this big amount of snow? There were so many things going through my head. What am I gonna do with my son without a dad?
25 minutes after the avalanche engulfed Tyson, there was a breakthrough.
Once they hit his helmet with the shovel, Mike screamed, I found him, I found him.
Hey, I need a time. What time is it, ma'am?
They had taken the snow away from his face, and his face was purple.
I need a shovel. Do you have a shovel? Is that a shovel behind you?
No, it's just a handle.
He was breathing.
When I first came to, I could just see a hand scraping at my face, and I could start hearing people yelling, we found him.
It was the best feeling in the world to just see him and see that he was okay and know that I still had him around.
He was buried so deep, it took a further 20 minutes to dig Tyson out.
I feel lucky to be alive, and makes me like I'm just burning inside, but I'll get what everybody that was there had to go through trying to find me.
Tyson was lucky. His friends were able to search for him from the minute he was buried. But when student Mary Owen was trapped by the snow, it was 4 days before anyone even realized she was missing.
My parents raised us with kind of a love for the outdoors. My mom grew up hiking and camping, and so she kind of passed that along to us.
Mary is always looking for an adventure. She's always looking to go somewhere, to climb something, to see something. If you're going somewhere with Mary, you better hang on. That's kind of how it works.
I think it is dangerous to let fear take over, and almost all of my life I've kind of trained that out of me, that reaction.
In 2013, Mary's latest challenge was to climb Mount Hood, a local mountain with a fearsome reputation.
Mount Hood, you'll have a beautiful clear day, and then 20 minutes everything just turns around. You're in the middle of a blizzard.
There are parts of it that can be very tricky and more of a technical climb, and she doesn't really have a whole lot of experience that way.
This time for spring break, I had an experienced guide who had offered to come with me. I had a couple other people who were interested, and then at the very last minute, they all kind of bailed out, and the experienced guide said, I'm not really liking the weather conditions, and I don't want to go.
She had promised me, because I made her promise me, that she wouldn't climb Mount Hood alone.
But on March 2013, Mary set off on her own without telling anyone.
I was in a very stubborn mindset. Basically, I was going to do this hands down. And so, I wasn't really prepared to turn around.
Armed with a poncho, ice axe, and 3 energy bars, Mary headed off, fully intending to be back that afternoon.
The day was beautiful. It was sunny, it was clear, you could see the entire mountain, and that was inspiring. By the time I got to the top of the second ski lift, which is at about 9,500 feet, the weather had kind of turned. The temperature had dropped down to freezing. It was starting to snow. Some clouds had come in.
Determined not to be beaten, Mary pushed on towards the summit. But before long, it was snowing so heavily she couldn't see her hand in front of her face.
If I kept going up and it cleared off, then I'd be able to find my way back once the whiteout cleared, but it didn't clear.
Finding herself in a canyon, Mary tried to climb out using her ice axe.
My ice axe slipped out of one of the holes, and I started falling. The fall was a blur because it was just like tumbling basically through rocks and trees. And I remember hitting stuff. I remember trying to grab things a few times, tree trunks that I'd go past.
Falling 40 feet, Mary landed on a canyon shelf. She had twisted her ankle and gashed her leg.
I got up and immediately tried to start walking again, and then I was like, okay, there's something wrong with my leg, because I could feel it tugging, and I was cold enough that I didn't really feel a lot of pain.
That night, in the pitch black, and with the realization that no one would be looking for her, Mary recorded a message to her family.
I'm not really scared to die. Guess I'm a little upset for being so stupid. But I love you all. It'd be cool not to die right now, but I think I'm ready for it. God is good. Even though he hasn't answered very many of my prayers recently. At least not on this trip. That's what I get for being stubborn. Bye. I love you.
making that video actually kind of made the reality of death kind of hit me a little harder, because I was like, oh, you know, that could be the very last thing that I get to say to anybody ever.
Mary woke up the following day, freezing and unable to move. Trapped on the ledge, she rationed her 3 energy bars.
I knew that I could stretch my food for 3 days maybe. I knew that beyond that I've gone without food for a week before, so I knew I could do that again. There were times when I wanted to die, just because it was so cold and so painful and so lonely. And there were times when I was just like, when is this going to be over?
At home, Mary's family had no idea she was even missing.
We got a phone call from one of her roommates on Thursday and said, you know, we're kind of concerned, we haven't heard from her. Nobody had actually heard from her in 4 days. And so at that point, I said, we have to report her as a missing person.
On the 5th day, the National Guard started a full-scale search.
They ran 2 search crews out on Friday and a search plane, and they did not find her. I had this thought in my mind, a phone call is good, a knock on the door is bad, because they don't tell you good news when they come to your house.
On Saturday morning, Mary's family headed up to Mount Hood to join the search.
As soon as we got out, the person who was running the search there, and he says, we're glad you're here. The helicopter is hovering over somebody right now, and we're not sure, but the clothing seems to match. We'll know here in a minute or two. I remember not being able to say anything. He said, please God, let it be her. Please God, let it be her. 30 seconds later, he came back to us and said, it's her, and she's alive, she's moving, and I fell to my knees, and we were overjoyed.
After 5 nights on the mountainside, Mary was airlifted to hospital.
Well, the first thing she said to me was, I'm so sorry, Daddy. And I hugged her and I just said, I forgive you. There's not a lot that gets said at that moment. There's just a lot of weeping and rejoicing.
It was just so good to see everybody again, and also really sobering to just realize how deeply, like, my foolishness would have affected them if I had died.
Despite every preparation and all the experience in the world, snow can still catch you unawares.
Yeah. Hey, hold, don't move, don't move.
February 2011, ski instructor Christopher Carlson and 3 friends headed into the Swiss mountains to ski on their day off.
We were out skiing the entire day of piste, and it was a beautiful clear blue skies and a lot of fresh snow.
They started their final descent of the day, with Christopher coming down last.
I choose to take a bit more difficult part, a bit steeper part of this run. I start skiing over a ridge, just back and forth. That's the biggest dream for a powder skier, have a beautiful ridge to ski over.
Christopher had no idea that he triggered an avalanche, which was catching him up.
The point when I realized that this is really bad was when all the loose snow took me out of balance and I start tumbling. It is like being in a washing machine, you just go tumbling up and down. It just took a couple of seconds from being on the surface to being underneath. I was hoping that my friends weren't buried too, because I knew that my only chance was having friends on the surface still who can search for me and dig me up. Like, it's really stiff, it's like being stuck in concrete. That's when I realized this is not gonna end well.
Christopher Carlson has skied since he was 2 years old. But when he was buried 2 meters deep in an avalanche, all he could do was pray his friends hadn't also been buried alive.
At this point I'm starting to lose hope a bit, and I start shouting as a last way out, just hoping that someone is still up there and can hear where I am. I start screaming with all that I can.
Christopher had now been buried for almost 5 minutes and was running out of oxygen.
I start hearing people and I start to see something, or a hand or something just digging for me. Here I understand that I'm gonna get up and I'm alive. It was really wonderful to breathe fresh air.
Please take me up. Please. Okay, I want to get up. Okay.
I never felt such big joy as realizing that I'm gonna be saved. And my friends are all okay too. I was still in shock, I think, because I didn't realize how close it was to dying. So I was just happy.
The risk of being trapped in the snow in the mountains is one people knowingly take. But every winter, snow also traps thousands of people in their homes.
Oh my gosh. Snow's so high.
And on the roads.
Stuck in the snow, around 30 minutes. I was a priest there. Didn't have a choke before, as I couldn't get God to help us.
Those who get stuck, give it a try then, boys. Lonnie Washington lives in Chicago, the Windy City.
Us Chicagoans, we've always figured, we've been through big snow, we've been through big rain, heat waves, that anything that, or any storm that comes at us, we can handle it.
His commute to work normally takes 30 minutes.
Before that day, and even before arriving at work, there was no signs that anything big was coming.
But severe weather warnings were issued, and his office closed early.
I was not concerned at all when I was leaving. I figured that, this is gonna add an hour to my drive.
The conditions worsened, but Lonnie ploughed on. 3 miles from home, the wind from Lake Michigan caused massive snowdrifts, bringing traffic to a complete stop.
This is bigger than what I've been through at any point in time before.
Okay, I'm totally almost blocked off the side to side, which just lets me into the